Adhocracy.
Okay, now, boom. Now we're going.
It's not okay.
What? This is so weird. Yeah, so this is the Adhocracy podcast. I've got Mr. Jeff Graham on the line here. And yeah, this is the first podcast, and I'm excited. Thank you, Jeff, for being here. Big reason why I asked you to come on is you're the first person who really kind of got me going on podcasts, so it seemed appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, podcasts are great. So
yeah. So you said scotch, yes?
Yeah, I got some scotch, some mix something my buddy got me.
Okay,
I actually emptied the bottle. This was the last pour, and I kind of feel guilty now because we had stagers come in to stage the place for viewings this week, and they kind of set up the bottles a certain way, and I emptied it. So I just threw it out. I'm like, I'm not gonna leave an empty bottle here, and I kind of adjusted it with some Jameson, but I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? That's what I should have done. I should have poured some Jameson into the whiskey. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that.
Just don't tell anyone, you know.
Well, it's just staged, so. Well, now I told you, and now if you get like a million listeners, a million people will now know that I put Jameson in a scotch bottle.
I won't tell anyone. I won't tell. You just got to hope that the person who comes and views your house doesn't decide to be a whiskey snob or a scotch snob.
Well,
that's it. It's like, what the hell is this?
Well, I hope I would take it with me when I left.
No, but when they come to see your house, right? When they come see your house the first time?
Well, I hope they don't drink my stuff.
Me too. All right. Cheers.
Yeah.
So
I got the big cubes too, like maybe like 2 inches by 2 inches by 2 inches cube.
I've thought about getting whiskey stones. I've never actually done it. I don't have any ice in this one right now, but it's usually a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Cut it a little.
I'd like to become a whiskey snob, but I just never have the time because I feel like I'm always training for something. And then I'm like, oh, you got to quit drinking. Or I just want to have a scotch when I'm celebrating something, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a snob, then you'd be drinking it all the time, and like,
so
then it's not that special.
When I first started drinking whiskey, it was my brother-in-law who got me. He's like, you should try this. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then tried a couple different whiskeys, some scotch, and was like, I don't taste a difference at all. But then I got Tin Cup, and I drank that for a long time, mostly because it was good whiskey and it wasn't too expensive, and drank that for quite a while. And then I had a different whiskey, and then I really tasted the difference. So it just took time with me. I don't know. My palate isn't as well attuned as, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I find it better like if you're somewhere and they have flights and they have the notes on it and like, oh, smoky flavor. Then if you sit there and like sip it and you're like, okay, I can taste this the smokiness, and and it's like, oh, it's from this region of Scotland, or you know, like, oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I was really excited about this one. This is Acoustician. I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but it's a lowland scotch, as opposed to I usually drink Highlands. I don't like I don't like the peaty ones. The peaty ones are just, in my mind, I don't like those.
Yeah. Is that what you brought last night?
No, I brought Tin Cup last night, and that Tin Cup was they just released like a 10-year, an aged 10-year version. Usually it's I don't know how long it's aged. Apparently it's not aged at all. But it's from Colorado, and it's made with Rocky Mountain water. So I like it because of that, you know. It's good stuff.
Rocky Mountain water's got a little, you know, elk urine in it and stuff like that, and beer, you know, feces run through it. So it's good.
Oh yeah. So training, you're still doing lots of training. So is this scotch like a once a month thing, or what's going on with that?
Well, no, I haven't. Whenever I'm training for something, I don't I'm not an alcoholic, so it's not like I need to quit drinking. I just, sometimes I'll hang out with people and I'll drink too much, and then that'll mess up training the next day. So that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
But I just try and add the goal of like a month before the race or event, whatever it is, maybe 2 months, I'll stop just drinking and
Just cold turkey.
eating stuff that's better. I mean, I'm not an alcoholic, so cold turkey is easy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I don't know. I always, for a long time, I did that too, but like usually I just drank beer, and for a long time I did that, but then it felt like it was, I don't know, I missed it, those, like just having a beer, because we do pizza and a movie on Friday nights around here, and I like having a beer with that, so I would usually keep up with that, but I would cut back everything else.
Yeah, pizza's rough. I had pizza Friday night, and Saturday I had to do the 20 miles, and it was just, I felt it. So
yeah, those runs that we used to do at Lord Hill, like I was always running on pizza, and I think it was always a bad choice, but the kids like pizza in a movie, so
I do too.
yeah, it's a good combination. It's really solid.
Yeah.
But so when you're training for, is it the Nashville Ultra? Is that what you said?
No, I had to switch. So Nashville is just a regular Spartan Super and then a sprint the next day on Sunday. So what happened was my half brother, who I was convincing to run something with me, I was going to run the Super in Arizona in February by myself competitively. And then Sunday I was going to run the sprint with him. They canceled that like in end of December or early January. I don't remember when, but they canceled it quick. And so I had 2 races and then they moved it to like November. And because I got the new job and I had to move to Alabama, I was like, well, I just don't know if I want to start planning trips like that so soon. So there was a Nashville one in October. So I'm like, I'll move the Super and Sprint to Nashville Super and Sprint. And whether I can convince people to come with me or not, it's like an hour and a half drive for me from my new home once I get there. So
nice. So what ultra are you doing then?
So my first race this year is going to be a Spartan Ultra.
Oh my God.
And that's at June. So we were going to do Montana, but Kevin dropped out, right? Mina moved. You remember Mina? He moved.
Oh man. Yeah.
So it was, and Dalton never signed up. I was the only one signed up for the Montana Ultra. And then you were like, I might do the Beast. I'm not doing the Ultra, but
I'm signed up for the Beast still.
You did, yeah. But after, I think Kevin kept thinking it was going to get canceled. To me, I think it's still going to go on.
Yeah.
And I wanted that race to be my last hurrah here in Washington before I moved. But it seems like that weekend is the weekend I'm moving right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do I do? Do I delay moving so I can run a race? Like, is that very adult-ish, like that's kind of childish, because it's not just my life. It's, my fiance, my dog, my job,
Gotta account for the dog. The dog might not want to go to Montana.
Yeah. So I moved that race to Ohio. So I've already been in Huntsville for a while, and I needed to get an ultra in because I started training for it. And I just don't want to stop training. So I moved it to, it's June 4th now in Ohio, somewhere near Cleveland. So that's June 4th. I convinced Mina. So Mina's working in like Normal, Illinois at the River Van plant, the electric truck company that he's working in. And so he's going to fly to Detroit. I'm going to fly to Detroit because that's the only place where our airports fly direct to that's close. Because our airports are really small in Huntsville and Normal. So we're going to fly to Detroit and we're going to drive to that place in Ohio and run that together. We're going to run it together. So
you have a driver for coming back?
Yeah, I'll do the driving because he's not a very good driver. He pays like $400.
Well, I mean, you're going to be broken.
It doesn't matter. It's better to be safe and broken than broken and not safe.
I suppose. Yeah.
So we're going to run it together because we're training for Montana. So we're doing a lot of hills. I'm not saying Ohio is going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be easier than Montana.
Yeah, Montana always had some pretty brutal hills, which I'm sure they would have incorporated. So
yeah, And I remember talking to me, and I'm like, well, since it's going to be easier, we should race in obstacles and make it fun. And he's talking to me, is like, this is over 30 miles. You're acting like it's easy. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am acting like it's not going to be easy. I mean, the marathon was hard. So why is, an extra 6 miles with obstacles is going to be easier? So I'm like, yeah, you're right. So, all that did was it moved my training back 4 weeks. So I just
How did you do that? How did you like change that up in your training? Did you just literally go back 4 weeks?
I just went back 4 weeks and started from there.
Okay. So how, like, what are you doing for that training? Because I know we used to do like just a crap ton of like lunges and bucket carries is what was the previous.
I'm doing my typical weightlifting with a lot of higher reps, lower weight to get the endurance in your muscles, because you have to do things repetitive. I have no issues with any obstacles. So it's just keeping my current strength current and then add an endurance to it, because now you're going to have to do everything twice because it's pretty much just two beasts.
Yeah.
So now you just want to keep the muscle endurance up. So I'm lightening the weight, doing heavier, higher reps. And then I'm doing a lot of grip training. So, I have all the hand pulleys, the finger strength 1, 2, which I'll just do here while I'm working. And then I do my maniac pull-ups during like leg day. Make sure I do, this past week I did 115 during leg day. And now I'm going to try and do 200 this week in a day. And in the gym session, I just got to figure out when leg day is, because it's so hard to do leg day and running so much that it's messing up my runs. So I'm almost wondering if maybe I should just stop doing leg workouts.
When you say it messes up your runs, is it just like you fatigue out, or you actually get pain?
Like you pump your legs out so much and they're tired, and then you're just going to go do 10 to 20 miles on them. Then there's no time to recover.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So upper body's easy.
I've never done too much lifting and running at the same time. I started to dabble in it a couple years ago, but then I got broken. So
yeah.
But it is something long term I do want to get more into the strength training and include that with the running. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue to do Spartans or not, but
yeah, it's changing. And the reason why I'm still doing them is because I have to finish what I paid for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I hate wasting money, and it's like, well, I paid for these races, and I think Dalton doesn't even want to do them anymore, and because he just wants to stick to running.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we had him. I mean, we could have got him into elite, and we would have all had these fun races.
Man, Dalton was killing it. He was absolutely killing it. He legit could have gone into the elite and done well. I mean, I don't know if he would have actually placed, but he would have done really well. And like talking about getting him some sponsorship or something to help him out with that. I mean, because he's always been really phenomenal at running. And once he had the grip strength sorted out, and what was it, the Herc hoist, lifting that back, it was about the same weight as him. Once he got that, he was a monster out there.
Yeah. When we ran Tahoe together, he's got me on running. I can't really talk crap to Dalton because he beats me. He catches up. He runs the beat. His heat is usually like 15, 30 minutes after me on the beast, and he passes me by mile 9 or 10. And I'll have done no burpees because I've gotten every obstacle, right? But he's already failed one obstacle, and he's still passing me.
I really want to see.
I came in third. And I'm like, I came in like 40th, but
I really want to see what how they actually calculated the standings back in 2020, because they only had 4 or 5 races, and he won both of the races that he did that year. So he has to have I don't know.
Oh, that must have broke his heart. But yeah, back to Tahoe. When we got to the Herc hoist, that was the last obstacle before the finish. And because we were running it together as like a fun thing, I'm like, let me do it by myself, so I can do the obstacle. And then if you need help, I'll help you. And I did it, I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, he goes to do it, and he's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, you need me. Yeah. And then you watch the video at the end, I took off I could
yeah. So you could beat him, obviously.
Yeah.
Beat him at Tahoe.
And I did that
If there's a
before
place
when
to
we
beat
all
him,
ran.
if there's a place to beat him, Tahoe is the place to beat him. Oh man. So yeah, I mean, like, because that whole COVID thing, I mean, I'm still, like I said, I'm signed up for Montana. The only reason I'm signed up for Montana is because I'm still just like pushing out the race credits from, I think it was 2020. It might have even been the year before, because I had that surgery that I had to kind of take a break from. But I've been just pushing those credits out so far. I still want to do Spartans if my back will get back in shape, which I think I'm on a good path right now. I think I've got a good physical therapist who's helping me out with that. So I think it's definitely going to be possible. It might take time, but
right.
I don't know. I know Dalton wants to get away from it, and I don't know. We've been doing them for
he
so
wants
long.
To do the electric. Yeah.
I just
he wants to do the electric stuff. So.
Oh yeah. Well, apparently it's going to be optional. I don't know.
I think so. I hope so. I don't want to do it either.
No. I mean, well, I think I forget if you were there last night when I mentioned this, but it was that one down in Texas where they had the Tough Mudder, and it was the ice, and it was a low crawl through ice, and they had the boards right over you. So while you're doing the low crawl, you had the electroshock hitting you. So you were literally crawling through like melted ice and getting shocked and low crawling all at the same time. And there was a guy who we were running with who just he just blacked out. Right. And he all he remembered is getting halfway through, and then he was done. And there was some dude who just like pulled him the rest of the way through. That dude is some kind of badass to be able to pull himself through. And like, oh man, that was by far the worst. You know, the whole Tough Mudder electroshock thing that I'd ever seen was my very first Tough Mudder. I'm glad they never brought back the, you know, ice plus shock, because that's brutal. It's just brutal.
Ice is brutal. Every time we did the Arctic Enema, I always would stick my hand down my pants to make sure I didn't lose my boys. It felt like they just went, because that's what the human body, also what our human bodies are designed for. When they get cold, they, you know.
Yeah, you got to keep things
did I lose them? Are they completely gone? And you guys are running off. I'm like, I got my hand on my pants trying to make sure they're there.
Oh man. Well, and the way they mixed it up the last time we did the Mudder, which was I think back in 2018, they did Arctic Enema, and then they did the electroshock right after it. So you went through electroshock all wet, and man, that was a different experience than having it at the end, because at the end, you know, you're not always completely soaked. So that you felt that was like a full body shock.
Well, no, they made us go down that big slide into the water and then electroshock, right?
Well, in 2018, the electroshock wasn't at the end. You're right. Yeah, that was the last obstacle, was the happy ending. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the electroshock was right after Arctic Enema, and man, we did the link arms again on that one.
Yeah.
Such a bad idea.
That's such a bad idea to make that obstacle in the middle of nowhere, because that obstacle is not for you and me. That obstacle is for the spectators.
The people with lawn chairs.
Yeah. Remember when we did it in Colorado, and I'm like, screw this. I'm going to do the entrapment. I'm not going to get electrocuted once. Yeah. And they were yelling at me like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not here for your entertainment. You're not paying for this. No. Like, I just don't feel like getting electrocuted.
That by far is the best way to go through that obstacle, is to just take it slow. And I mean, they were yelling at me too, to run. No, I'm not running.
It's that sometimes they have a guy who will push the whole cage so that the bobs will hit you. I've seen that.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen videos of people going through it, and then someone's hitting the cage so that they all start swaying.
Oh man, that would be rough. That would be rough.
I want that job.
Yeah. Well, then there was that guy that they used to have the MC right there too, when, you know, that day that I kind of got a little frightened of my own wife when she did the Iron Cross. Oh my God. Which just to describe this, since we're on a podcast, is basically you're going through a bunch of hanging wires that are randomly juiced to 10,000 volts. And this guy convinced my wife to walk through it slowly with her arms extended out in a cross. And oh my, I had wanted to go through the electroshock with her, just as, you know, as a good couples experience.
Right. You don't need
but they had the Legion, they had the Legionnaire loop or whatever that we did to go get our Legionnaire headband, and she was just through the electroshock before I even had a chance to finish that. And it was like,
yeah. Because I remember I was up on the top.
Yeah.
I was on top of the rings and I was watching. I think I'm like, dude, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I got to get down there, go be with my wife. And by the time I get down, she's
Yeah.
already done. And the crowd's going nuts because she just, whew. Yeah, shout out to wifey. She did a good job that day. That was intense.
Did not know you married a psycho.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh man. Yeah, it'll be interesting like to see how so they actually had a race scheduled in Arizona for February of this year.
Yeah, they had more than a couple races scheduled earlier this year. I think they put a schedule together thinking they can do all of 2021.
But they canceled in December for
yeah, I'll have to check through my emails when they canceled it. It might have been January, but I'm pretty sure that was scheduled before I got the new job. And
yeah, I want to get to that too. I want to talk about that too.
So
but like I think
when that got canceled, I canceled my flights and
well, yeah, makes sense. I mean, I'm just curious like when it'll really start to kick back up and everything will be back, because I mean things are improving at a pretty rapid rate right now with like I've been shocked at how quickly the cases have kind of gone down here in Washington. Now I don't know if that's because we spiked over the holidays and then we came down, and I don't know if that's because people kind of got it out of their system to go see the people, loved ones. Makes sense. You want to go see your family over the holidays, but then really hunkered down for the beginning of the new year. If that's what changed the numbers, or I mean, the vaccine is obviously going to help, and
maybe more people, because of all the people that had it, more people are immune to it now, and they're not.
Yeah, the herd immunity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
You and I could have had it. We might have never known. Like I get allergies. And I've never thought in my life when I had an allergy, it just sucks. I'm itching my eye. I'm like sticking Kleenex up my nose, like just. Yeah, but like now I'll go for a run and some pollen will get me, and then I'm all itchy, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's COVID.
Yeah, well, and I had that one COVID scare where I thought I might have had it, and I'm thankful I didn't, because I was about to, one, because I don't want to have had COVID. I'm thankful for vaccines and all that. But I also was about to go on that trip to Montana, and I had to get checked out. And man, they were telling me 3 days to get a reply back on that test, and it came back in 15 minutes. And it was like yeah, sometimes when people get in here early, we can get a test result in quick. And I'm like you told me 3 days, 15 minutes is like lightning fast. Like this is great.
It's scary because then it's like, oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Why else would they be calling me so quick?
Yeah, so that was that was the closest I've ever come to this. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, because I mean those OCRs, that is everyone breathing heavy right on top of each other. I mean, there's not a good way around it.
Yeah, you're destroying your immune system when you do physical activity like that.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
because it's not just a normal run or a normal gym workout or whatever you do to work out. It's, you're going hard. And
you're putting it all together.
Yeah, I was telling Dalton, I'm like, we need to load up on vitamin D and C during this Mount St. Helens Bigfoot 40, because that's not the time to get sick, because if you get sick, your immune system is crap. Yeah. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. If your immune system goes to crap, it might actually kill you. So just.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, and yeah, I'm excited to see them coming back. I haven't looked at which ones they've actually canceled, and I'm curious if they're probably canceling on a by state basis, because of how open some states are. I'm sure like Texas, they're fully open. In Montana, Montana got rid of their mask mandate, I want to say about a month ago. So they've been, and I'm sure people are still wearing masks when they're out, but the mandate's gone, so that,
It's funny, they weren't on the news when that happened, because it's such a small state.
Yeah, well, they didn't, Texas had that whole freak snowstorm coming through. Well, that was an that was a major event there. And we used to live in San Antonio, so we actually called some friends who'd lived down there and called to check on them, and they were okay. They didn't have any burst pipes. They had a few rough days, but yeah, they didn't have any burst pipes, which that's going to be the big issue down there. Plumbers down in Texas are gonna they're gonna be set for years, because either you got to go fix everyone's pipes right now, or you got to fix everyone's pipes who thought they fixed their pipes in 2 years and turns out they didn't. So
and insurance will be paying for it, so it's not like people aren't going to get it done because they can't afford it. If you have health insurance, you're okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
we got stuck in that storm too. I was in Huntsville looking for places to live, and then I'm like, okay, the storm is for real. Maybe we need to get to Nashville a day earlier so we can fly out. And we did. We made it to Nashville safely, but then everything they can't handle it.
Yeah.
And we were stuck there for 3 extra days. And then when they canceled our 3rd flight, I was like, let's just drive to Atlanta. It was like a 4-hour drive from Atlanta from Nashville. And I'm like, and you can get a direct flight on a 767 from Atlanta to Seattle. So we ended up making it back on the 3rd cancellation day, but
jeez,
still stuck in a hotel room. The hotel lost power for like 7 hours too. It's like, oh, this is going to be a long trip.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. I mean, even around here in, the Seattle area, when you get snow, I mean, there are a few plows to kind of keep those emergency routes open. But I remember, I think it was wasn't it last year we had that big snowfall that actually, usually we get snow and it just melts off the next day, but we had that bigger snowfall that actually stuck around for, I don't know, like about a week.
Yeah, I missed it. I was in Australia. I missed
You're lucky.
I missed all the big snowstorms that happened here because I'm always somewhere else. But then the year before that, when you guys had it, I was in Wyoming snowboarding, so I missed that one too.
The one where we were, kind of, it's not like a COVID shutdown, but just like we didn't get our like the storms landed just perfect, so that we didn't get our trash picked up for 3 weeks in a row. So we had just bags of trash, which, full of diapers and it was didn't go in the garage very often unless you had to over that time period there. But yeah, but so one thing I did want to talk to you about is your new job, because that's awesome. You're going from being a Boeing engineer to a NASA engineer, and both of those jobs are awesome in their own right. But
Boeing has NASA engineers too.
Fair point.
They make part of the rocket. So
yeah, well, I mean, NASA's and what they're doing is so big now. But I was just curious. I mean, can you tell us about what your new job is going to be? I know you can't speak in real specific terms, but in general, you're going to be working with SLS, right?
Yeah, it's on my LinkedIn, so it's not like no one can just look it up. So I actually work for a subcontractor, but they're contracted by NASA. So I have a NASA ID, I have a NASA email address, I represent NASA. So I'm held to the NASA standards.
Oh man.
So I am. But so yeah, I'm a systems engineer. So that's what I was doing after I left manufacturing engineering at Boeing and went to the teardown lab. I was a systems engineer and got all those certificates and all that hoopla. But so I'll be in charge of the exploratory upper stage, which is an upper stage of the SLS rocket. And that is considered a spaceship and part rocket. So when it's attached to the SLS rockets, those rockets get it into orbit. And then once they detach, my upper stage has its own rocket engines, and it will either drop payload off it can orbit around the moon and drop payload off onto the moon, or it'll drop people off. So there'll be the Orion, I think, attached to it, and that'll have people on it. So I'll be in charge of the systems engineering of the operations portions I'll be writing the requirements for the launch criteria. So what they need to have a launch, and then the operations on the ground and the maintenance requirements for those ground operations.
So the package you're going to be working on, I know the SLS has a few variants already. Is it going to be on all the variants?
No, it's going to be on the Block 1 Bravo.
So how do those blocks line out? Because I'm assuming there's some that are meant for, let's say that, you know, some meant for the space station, some meant for the moon, and eventually
Right.
there's going to be one for Mars, right?
So mine is all Block 1 Bravos. Everything before that is just the rockets and just getting sent up on their own. I forget, they're just Block 1s, and then Bravos will be mine, and that'll get to the moon. And then Mars will be in work after that, I guess. I'm not sure. My goal was to at least stay there until I can get people back on the moon, because I'm still a little iffy about living in Alabama. So I'm like, well, make the best out of it, stay there, do a good job, and get people to the moon, because you can say you got people to them, you helped, you were a piece of it. I'm not the smartest person in the book, so it's still kind of cool to say that. So
yeah, well, I mean, just saying you work for NASA, I mean, alone is, in my mind, you know, when you told me that you'd taken that job at NASA, you know, I'd be lying to say I'm sad, or to lying to say I'm not sad to see you go, because I mean, we've had a great time doing all these OCRs and working at Boeing, and had that workout crew that's been doing, you know, that's where Dalton came from. And yeah, now it died. Yeah, it's I'm gonna have to start over with Dalton again.
I feel bad for Dalton.
Yeah. But to hear, you know, you just going to NASA is cool, and then knowing that you're working on SLS, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And so and you guys took it. We talked about this a little bit last night, but you guys actually took a break to just watch Perseverance land, right?
Right. Yeah, I've had on my calendar that our group told us, hey, Perseverance is coming on, and you're gonna watch. Make sure you watch it. And I'm like, okay. I mean, right now my job is really slow. I'm not gonna get like super busy till next summer, because we're so far off, which is good, because now I'm in all the Boeing meetings, learning about what they're, you know, going through their PDR, CDRs of their designs, and I'm just learning. So it's good. It's giving me a lot of time instead of getting thrown into the fire where you need to start writing these requirements, but I don't know what this valve is, or what this tank is holding, or why do we need to cool down this tank so much? Because, you know, so I'm not busy right now. Well, I am, but that helps break up the time of just reading through specs and reading through designs.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a
helicopter too, land on Mars.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like, I knew that Perseverance was going to be different. You know, it's going to poop out the samples of soil that are eventually going to get picked up and pushed back to Earth, which I think is awesome. But then that whole little drone that we're gonna, is that drone going to be, I want to say reusable, but able to basically go out, take a trip, come back, recharge, and then go out and basically have multiple trips out?
I think so. That would make sense, right?
Come on, you work for NASA. You're supposed to know this, Jeff.
We contracted that out, so it is NASA. But they had I forget JT. I don't know. I forget the organization that made it and launched it. And it was the first I heard of it when I was in the meeting and they talked about it. That was the first I heard of it landing on Mars. I didn't even know about the Perseverance, because
man. So I really enjoy that kind of stuff. So it had been on my radar for a bit, and the day that it landed, I was actually, you know, Boeing right now we're mostly off site, working from home, but that day I was actually on site. But everyone was, you know, we had some stuff going on, but I took my lunch break right at the exact time to be able to watch it all come down and see everybody get excited. And it was pretty cool to see those first few images. And it's like the images we're getting back now are like, they're really clear HD. I don't know, I have a hard time. Like you look at it and I think, okay, yeah, rocks, this, that, the other thing. And it's like, it's on another planet.
Yeah,
Like that,
but it
that in
does
and of
look
itself
like
is just mind blowing.
it does look like the Utah or Arizona desert or even Australia. So
Yeah.
they could be lying to us.
Yeah, they went to Australia and they went on top. What's that big rock in Australia that you saw? They just went up there.
Uluru, the Ayers Rock or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
There's two different names.
they just went up there and filmed up there, right?
I don't think they're allowed to have people on it anymore. So
No, I believe it. People are,
it's just a sacred site, and
yeah.
you know,
But like the idea that you're looking at something that's literally on another planet, like
yeah,
it's hard for me to wrap my head around that sometimes, and like I have to just stare at it and think about it. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool
it
to,
makes you want more.
yeah. And it's like, oh, they're gonna
Like,
launch a drone. Well, let's launch it now. Like I want to see what this footage looks like flying
yeah,
around. I mean, flying around on Mars. If they're able, I don't know if they're able to get back more than just stills, but
right.
if they're able to send any kind of like a video from that drone that's flying around, flies around Curiosity, flies around the crater, um, that would just be too cool.
I'm greedy though. I want them. They don't need to land anymore. I just want them to get into the atmosphere of like Saturn or Jupiter. I just want to see that images. I don't even think we can have the technology yet to do that, and or it gets too hot or too gas. I don't know enough,
So
but or at least go to those. What's that planet that they found life on or something? The moon, one of the moons.
Europa.
Yeah, like why can't we just go
On
there?
Jupiter, one of Jupiter's moons. Yeah, and they're actually planning that. I yeah, that one it hasn't launched yet, I think. I don't remember, but that one is going to be interesting because that's the one that they think has ice and geysers and potentially a liquid ocean underneath, and there's all kinds of potential under there to find life. That it's long been in the sci-fi movies. I love watching sci-fi movies, and there's the one Europa Report, which was kind of a they essentially made the movie based on like if the crew took video logs and then sent them all back. And spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what happens, I'm going to tell you, Jeff. I guess other people could mute, but they find this creature that, that's the end of the movie because it's a horror movie, but they find it on Europa. But I mean, like the actual like real world potential to find something there is, as far as our solar system, it's high. Right. And I'm very excited about that one. I don't know. I feel like it was supposed to land in the mid 2020s, which that's coming fast. I can't believe it's 2021 already, but yeah, I can't wait for them to make it all the way to Europa. And I don't know what kind of atmosphere it might have, because I mean, at least on Mars, they're able to do that. The way that they landed the rover, you have to have atmosphere to be able to do something like that. And I don't know if you'd be able to do that on Europa.
Right. Yeah.
I recently watched a Netflix thing. I forget what it was, like 7 days till or 10 days till, but it was kind of getting to the Saturn thing you were talking about, where they actually had I don't remember the name, a satellite that has been basically floating around Saturn for years. I'll just say years. I don't know how long it's been, but it was years. And they were basically prepping to burn it in the atmosphere so that they didn't contaminate Saturn. And they wanted to have this, essentially a perfect burn so that it hit the atmosphere just right and burned up. But that was interesting too, because apparently they had some probe. I feel like they had some probe on there that they sent to Europa, which I'm feeling, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking that's wrong because I'm talking Saturn versus a Jupiter moon.
Maybe maybe you're right though. Maybe just the way the planets align, and
Yeah.
it's able to shoot into that trajectory of Jupiter. And
Was it Galileo? Who was the one who came up with was it Newton who came up with all the way that the planetary bodies work with gravity and you can slingshot yourself around the solar system? I forget who it was. But come on, Jeff, you work at NASA. You're supposed to know this stuff, Jeff.
No, I'm not. If I tell you, I'd have to kill you.
Right. My bad. Oh, so moving to Alabama, that's going to be a big shift. I was down there, was down in Montgomery for essentially boot camp for Air Force ROTC. Training camp is what we called it. So I was only there for a couple months, and I did welcome to the Air Force second lieutenant training there as well, which that particular piece, that base was downwind of a paper mill. So I don't have the best memories of that place. Aside from the smell, though, I remembered it being really just hot and muggy and not liking it too much. But
right.
Have you lived in a place like that before?
I lived in Florida.
Well, that's close. I mean, that's pretty hot and muggy.
But I was on the East Coast, in Jacksonville. I mean, then I lived in Rhode Island most of my life, and then here in Washington. I did live in Illinois for a couple months, but
see, that's all north.
Florida's not north.
Whatever. You said How long were you in Florida?
4 years.
Okay, that's a good amount of time. That's good. Yeah. What were you doing in Florida?
I was in the Navy in Florida.
Were you actually because the Navy has ships, were you actually in Florida the whole time, or were you out?
Oh no, I deployed to the Middle East twice from there. But
that's hot too.
My ships were always in Virginia because I fixed helicopters, so my helicopters would fly to Virginia, and then we ship out from there. So we just had a helicopter base, which was in Mayport, Florida, and there were ships there. Just none of the ships were mine. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So have you already gotten a place down in Alabama?
We have an apartment, and we just got into contract for a house. But it's a new construction, and it won't be done till March of next year.
Okay.
So we have an apartment that has a nice pool. So we're gonna take it as we're gonna have a pool this summer. So
nice. Well, that'll be moving from up here down there. Having a pool will be it'll be nice to be able to just go cool off if nothing else.
Right.
You gonna go work out in it?
Yeah, because it'll get me ready for that. Work out in the pool or in the
work out in the pool. I have always wanted to do a pool workout because they're brutal, but I've never had access to a pool.
I've tried. So when I lived back home in Rhode Island, there was a pool. I used to work in Massachusetts, and there was a pool right near work, and I'd go there, and I could do the swimming. It's fine. It's just if you don't time your breathing correctly, it's really hard. So I was able to get laps in, but I wasn't breathing correctly, and I got out of the pool, and if I didn't catch myself against the wall, I would have fainted. And I talked to a friend of mine, and he's like, "Dude, how are you breathing?" And I'm just like, "I don't know." No, you got to stay under take a deep breath, a couple strokes, and you just keep it on one side. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't go back and forth." I was just going like.
You were a flailer.
It was like I was moving, but I just wasn't breathing.
So did you ever mix up doing a pool workout with flutter kicks at outside of the pool and push-ups and burpees and all that stuff outside the pool?
No, I was too embarrassed.
We used to do that.
I don't want to do burpees on the pool floor.
Burpees. I don't think burpees would work very well there. That would probably be a bad combination unless you just jumped into the pool, I suppose.
Some people don't shower before going in those gym pools. The gym pool is a nasty pool. It's not. And then I remember because me and 3 work buddies, we would go to this gym. It was and they'd have racquetball, so we'd play racquetball at lunch or go. We'd always have activities, and there's always just this one guy in the locker room who would eat sandwiches and stare at us, which we thought were weird. We were adults. We were 28 at the time. We were just like, why is he eating a sandwich? And then you looked at his feet, And you're like, oh my God, what is wrong with his feet? And then it's like, all right, I'm going to go in the pool today. And I saw that guy just walking up and down the lanes in the pool. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going in the pool today. I just don't want what's on that guy's feet. And I mean, chlorine kills it all, but it was just.
Does it though? Does it? Are you sure, Jeff? Are you sure it
Exactly.
kills all that?
In theory.
Eating a sandwich in a locker room, that's something I haven't seen. I mean,
yeah, someone reported.
Men's locker rooms are weird. I'll just say that. But eating a sandwich, I've never even heard of that.
It's different if it's like your football team or rugby team and you're in the locker room, whatever, that's different. That's your family. But when you're with all strangers and you don't know each other and you're just sitting in your towel while I'm changing over there and you're just sitting there, that's weird, dude. And it's gross. Like, I don't want to eat a sandwich where nasty ball sweat is. And like,
yeah, that's
it's just such a, you get there to get cleaned, but it's still a disgusting environment. I'm going to eat just take it outside.
There's a bench outside. Eat the sandwich there.
But someone ratted him out, and I think he got like suspended from the gym because
people. And not just eating the sandwich, but the sandwich and the stare. That had that combination.
Yeah. He was old, so it's like, do we say something? He's old. Like, I feel bad.
Oh man, yeah, that's bizarre. But I've always wanted to be able to do a pool workout where you do, you like swim to one end, you do 30 flutter kicks at one end, you get back in the pool, go to the other side, do 30 push-ups, something like that, and you just keep mixing that up. We did that a couple times in at Montana State in the ROTC program, and those workouts were brutal. They were fairly. I mean, something that I've always struggled with all the running that we did is all the impact. My knees and my hips were fussy, to say the least. And pool workouts, I've always looked to those because, I mean, you can get some good strength training and good cardio all at the same time without any of that impact. Yeah, it's just finding a good pool to do that is hard.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'll do it. More than likely, I'll just swim around in it and probably do some kicks and stuff just for kicks.
Just for kicks?
But I don't think I'm going to do a workout in there. It's just, there's going to be little kids running everywhere, and I'm out of breath, and I take a head turn into the water and take a...
Because you're not a flailer anymore, right? You're not a flailer anymore?
No. Then you swallow the pool water and you're like, oh, that little kid peed in it. But this pool, when I moved there, I'll show you. The pool has those cabana seats where in Vegas where you have your lounge chair in the water with the cabana over you. It's I'm like, all right. And it's a luxury apartment in Alabama, and it's cheap. So it's not if this apartment was in downtown Seattle, it would have cost $4,000 a month in rent. We're paying
the market right now in Seattle in general is nuts. I mean, homes, we've lived in our home for, I guess it'd be going on 7 years now, and it's doubled in value, which, I mean, I understand that home values are supposed to go up, but for it to double, I don't know. It's bizarre. I know Kevin got a great deal on his house when he moved out. And you're just starting that process.
And right? What our agent wants to post at, it's wow, okay. So like I said, we're in contract with a new construction, and I hope she's right. I mean, if she's not right, we're off by, a couple grand. All I got to do is just budget a little bit, and I'll make up for it.
Sure.
But we can afford the mortgage with the smaller down payment too, because it's Alabama. But the house we're able to get there is, and the house, the amount we're going to sell the condo for the amount we're paying for the house, it's it doesn't make any sense. It's the house is so amazing that we're going to have, I hope it's going to be amazing, but everything we designed and what we wanted, it's I can't believe we're getting this at this price, and we're selling this place, which isn't that much less than the place in Alabama.
Are you going to have much yard?
Half an acre. So
Half an acre.
That was the thing. I'm like, I want property where I can shoot my bow and arrow every other day in the morning before I do whatever I want. And if I didn't get that in my garden, then I didn't want it. And now we can have my garden, and I can practice that was my always problem. I can never practice enough. There's nowhere to practice. So now I'll have that, and I'll have my garden and a screened patio and everything. So,
jeez,
and a tornado shelter. So it'll be good.
Tornado shelter is good.
Yeah. we added that. That was a big, like, that was an option. Do you want it or not? And I'm like asking around. I'm like, do you guys really have? I mean, they get tornadoes pretty often, but I'm like, does anyone? Because I don't want to be a bitch. Be like, yeah, I got a tornado shelter, and they're like, yeah, you're definitely not from here. So I asked around, and they're like, well, here's the thing: we get tornadoes every year, and you just run to the center room, and you're good to go. Most of the time. The one issue is if that one big one happens and it goes over your house, that room isn't going to save you. You're done.
Yeah, you're done.
So the only way you're saved from that big one or going over your house is that shelter.
So is the shelter just like an off, like attached from the house, like actually a recessed basement?
In the garage. It's in the cement in the garage. So you park over it.
Wow. So what, you got to move your car before the tornado arrives?
What's that?
You got to move the car before the tornado arrives?
Yeah, you do. But I don't know. We'll see how it's set up. Maybe we'll have. We're small. My fiance and I are small people, so we can just probably slide right on.
There you go. There you go. Just put a slide in.
Yeah. But she wants to put wine down there. She's like, oh, we can make it a wine cellar until we have to use it. And then we have to use it, and none of us can fit. Like, we're throwing out bottles of wine. By the time we get the bottles of wine out, we're already sucked up through the tornado. So.
Oh man. Well, I mean, that's cool that you can just put it right into your house. I mean,
yeah, it's better than running out in the middle of the storm and a tree just comes and hits you. Like,
all I think of, like the most that I know about tornadoes just purely comes from the movie Twister. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah. The flying cow is the best part.
Yeah. Going between the two tornadoes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually really liked that movie the first time I saw it, and I was pretty young at the time, and it was the first movie that I went to the store and bought the VHS copy, because when a new movie comes out, the store will buy like 50 copies of it, and then they'll sell off like 48 copies, and I had a VHS of Twister.
Is that Jodie Foster, right?
Is it? No, it was Bill Paxton was the guy. Whenever I hear Jodie Foster, I just think of the movie Contact, because I'm a sci-fi guy, so I think
Contact was his shit. I love that.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm glad you like that. That's like one of my all-time favorite movies is Contact. But she was in that, wasn't she?
I think so. That's why I was asking, because I don't remember. And now I want to rewatch it. I think Twister took place in like Oklahoma and Kansas. I'm just assuming that. And but just to get ready, because I did research, and I'm like, even after I accepted the job, I'm like, man, I think I'd rather deal with earthquakes, and because tornadoes happen every year there. It doesn't matter. And then they say research has shown that Tornado Alley has shifted. It's no longer Texas Panhandle and Kansas and Oklahoma. That it's now like that corridor between mid Tennessee, Huntsville, like that area. I'm like, oh great, we live in the new Tornado Alley. But that's just research. They don't know.
It's just science.
Just science. But our climate, we have an ice age, a high. It changes. So you never know what.
That's weird. It is. I mean, because Tornado Alley. I mean, like. I feel like I looked this up once, but there's not another tornado alley like that anywhere else in the world, is there? I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe there is, but I don't know.
Tornado Alley has its stages, and I know that it's primarily the Panhandle of Texas, Oklahoma through Kansas, but it extends all the way up to Canada. Like, we're not the only place. Like, Canada's a top spot too. Like,
when I was stationed at F.E. Warren in Wyoming, I remember one time we actually had a tornado warning and we had to all go to the shelter, and it was very far away. It was very much an anomaly and people didn't take it very seriously, and it was a small twister. But yeah, the Tornado Alley is a lot bigger than, I mean, because exactly, I think of it as it being as, you know, Oklahoma, that area.
Yeah.
But it's, I know it's a lot bigger. It's crazy. But to hear that it's shifting, that's interesting.
That's just research. So whatever that's what Google says.
What does Google say? Yeah.
By the way, it showed it, and I'm like, oh, but I think now don't get it twisted, pun intended. They get, like, Huntsville gets tornadoes all the time, and they were like, how many tornadoes did you get last year? Oh, like 50. And you're like, what, 50? And I think they count just the funnel. The formation of the funnel is considered a tornado, whether it touches down and causes damage. It doesn't matter.
I'm sure that, I mean, there's got to be something on the ground.
Yeah.
For even just from that. Now, whether or not it causes damage, I mean, because you get those, I mean, I remember as a kid, and even, you know, nowadays, still driving through Eastern Washington and driving through like all the farmland there, on the, what would that be? The east side of the Columbia River. Like, you see those dust devils all the time.
Down in like Pasco, the Tri-Cities area,
St. George, that area. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't, because I mean, whenever I'm driving across Eastern Washington, I'm driving to Montana. That's the only thing I'm doing. I'm not stopping.
I'm really gonna miss our drive to Montana.
That was a good one. You know, sit there and listen to podcasts all the time.
I hate to come back to that, but yeah, next year we're gonna try and do a Montana trip, and
we totally could. We could. I mean, the ability to get to Montana for, you know, one weekend, early May, shouldn't be too bad. I mean, the snow there isn't. I mean, it can happen. I mean, it can happen in that time of year, but we should totally be. I mean, I'm thinking next year, I should at least be able to do some kind of a Spartan by that point, even if I'm just doing it like a pansy, but I can at least get through the race if I'm not running. But
I'm done with the long ones after this year.
You've said that before. You said that after your marathon. You went and did your South Dakota marathon. What marathon was that you said? I'm all done. I'm all done. I'm never doing this.
I said I'll never run another marathon.
Yeah. So what? You just run more than a marathon?
It's an ultra.
Yeah, it's more.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not gonna have enough time. We're gonna get married next year sometime, whenever we figure that out, and then we're gonna move into a house. So I gotta move into a house. I gotta build my garden. I gotta build my archery range. I got all this stuff I gotta do, and then we gotta get married, have a honeymoon. Hopefully, you can travel around the world. So I want to take a month off, and then we're gonna have to have a kid. So I'm just gonna stick to beasts.
I don't know. I mean, I told you this. I've told you this many times. Anytime I walked up and jokingly said that we're going to do 1,000 burpees for the workout, you're always the first one to say, okay, well, let's get going if we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I tried doing the distance, you know, that same year that you did the marathon. Didn't work out for me. But that ultra is going to be a totally different animal, I think. It's a good one to, I mean, if it is going to be the last thing you do for like a long distance run, I mean, that's a good one to end on. It is.
The Mount St. Helens one?
Is that after or before your ultra?
Yeah, that's after. So the
ultra, okay, you're already doing it. You're already doing it.
But I'm doing 2 within a month. No, I only did it because Kevin and Dalton hate me so much that they just love seeing me suffer, and they love being at the finish line, and I cross like 5 hours later, and they're all like, I showered and I'm already on my second dinner. I'm like, oh, I just finished. Like, that's all they do is they just make fun of me. They just run ahead, and then they make fun of me. Like, Jeff's so slow and fat. And then when I catch up to them and I want to break, they just, all right, let's go. They just had like a 5-minute break waiting for me, you know? It's like,
I've done that to you a few times at Lord Hill. I don't know. You seem to be a glutton for punishment. I don't know if this year is going to be the last that you go do those. You seem to like up in the ante.
Well, that's why I'm moving to Alabama.
Forcing yourself into
Yeah.
what? There's no distance running in Alabama. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
there is. There's. I actually wanted to go to Arkansas because I've never been to Arkansas, and I needed a reason to go there. So I was actually gonna run another marathon just to go to Arkansas. That I found one there. But I don't want to live.
You literally have a marathon plan in another state.
I didn't do
for
it.
2022, and you're saying you're done.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't sign up for it. It was just a reason. But now I'm moving to Alabama, so now I don't have to do it because I can just go to a state over. I'm just gonna go through Mississippi. Sure. So I didn't want to live on the east side of the Mississippi anymore. Now I'm moving back, so that's the glutton for punishment. I mean,
well, you're moving to go work at NASA, which is pretty.
Sure, the job will be cool. I'm sure I'll find people to be friends with and this and that. But I like the western states. I like Idaho, Montana, Eastern Washington, Colorado. I like the big valleys and mountains.
You like hunting there, right?
Yeah, and the hunting in Alabama it'll be good, I'm sure, but it's not going to be like.
You gonna hunt some gators?
You can in southern Alabama, and where Kevin's going. Kevin's talked about it, so I'll come visit Kevin and hunt some gators.
Can you bow hunt gators? I'm
sure you could. I'd probably prefer that. I prefer shooting my bow. I don't have to blow my eardrum out when I shoot.
Yeah, I know. You're talking about having a range at your house. I mean, just put a picture of a gator up there, and you're set.
Yeah. I'm sure they will like that. I'm sure they hate because so Alabama's a big college football place. So Alabama's SEC, Florida's SEC, and Florida's the Florida Gators. So I'm pretty sure they're all like, roll tide, shoot that gator with the. Yeah.
I hope the rationale extends beyond that, but yes, I'm sure that is part of it. Yeah. So, I mean, are you going to be able to do hunting down there, or are you going to just take a trip back?
I'll be doing some hunting there. I want to come back here and hunt, but what's the sense? It's just too hard. It's so far. I can't drive my deer back. So, or I don't know. I moved to Washington from Rhode Island for this one reason, so that I can have adventures and hunt at the same time. It's not always about getting the animal. It's just the adventure that I love. And when I took Kevin hunting, he was starting to get mad with me. He was like, when are we going to get a deer? I'm like, I don't know if we'll ever get a deer, but isn't this fun? And he's just like, can we just go somewhere where we can get a deer? And I'm like, there's deer. You just got to find them. It's just really hard to find mule deer in Eastern Washington with a bow and arrow. I don't know what to tell you.
I think you answered my question. I was going to say, is it because you said hunting and adventure? I would put those two squarely together in the same bracket. So I think
but hunting in Rhode Island is you park your truck, you walk 20 yards to your tree stand, you go in your tree stand, and you freeze to death until a deer comes. That's not adventure. That's just survival of the cold for a little bit. But Kevin and I hiked up this little mountain, and it took us all day. And we got to the top, we didn't see any deer. We saw a sign and everything, and then on our way down, when we were all done with life, we were like, this sucks, this is horrible, we're sweating. 2 deer pop up, and we're like, now it's on. Our hots, a switch turned on. This was an adventure. Now it's time to get this deer. Who's gonna get it? You go that way. It's strategy. We didn't get the deer. It ended up being an illegal deer, so we could shoot it anyway. So, but it was still your hot. It's this is what it reminds you what you came for. But now I'm moving to Alabama. Maybe I'm only walking 60 yards instead of 20 yards, and then I'll sit somewhere and wait for a deer. And more than likely, I could probably get more deer, boar. I could probably get more game. I could probably fill my freezer more in Alabama than here. But
with boar, because I know boar are an issue. Boar are an issue. Joe Rogan talks about that all the time, how he's hunting, how there's just an infestation, in Texas and Oklahoma. Does that go all the way to Alabama?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. So are you worried about your garden?
No, they're in the wild. They're in the wild. I'll have a fence. My dog might eat it, but.
Your dog might eat a boar?
Might eat the garden.
Okay.
He's a little piggy. Yeah.
Your dog. I don't see your dog doing well against a boar. So.
But I really want to get a mule deer and an elk, and all I got was a whitetail, a blacktail. I didn't get an elk. I didn't get a mule deer. and they don't have that. So it's like I got to come back. I have to move out west again.
So what? So you'd hunt boar and what? Just mule deer?
No, they just have white-tailed deer in Alabama.
Whitetail.
And I think boar. I don't think a lot of people eat boar there. I have to look it up. I've never boar hunted, in public land on my own, so I don't know if people even eat them. So, because they have, if you don't cook them correctly, you can get that little bug in you, and it's like makes your skin crawl for like a little while. I forget what they call it. The same thing. It's not tetanus. It's like I'll remember later.
Yeah, sure. Tendinitis?
No, it's not tendinitis. But yeah, it can happen with bear too. So trichinosis. That's it.
Trichinosis. I've never heard of that one.
But it makes you feel like you got creatures crawling in you, and yeah.
From boar?
From bear and pig.
Did you say beer? From beer?
Beer.
Beer gives you trichinosis?
Yeah, like a black bear.
It's your accent. It sounded like beer, not bear.
Wait, isn't bear and bear the same thing? Like, look, there's a bear. Oh, can I have a beer? Isn't that the same thing?
Is it a keg? Or what's going on here? Is it a 6-pack?
So you're saying there's two different ways to say beer?
I sure am, Jeff. I sure am.
Or are you saying you can drink a beer and then there's a black beer?
Beer?
English is
beer?
stupid. English is dumb.
English.
So all the story is
yes.
English is stupid.
Yes, I'm 222 there. It's fine. Yes.
I had to, growing up, I had to go in a trailer during English class in back of the school because I had a speech impediment, so I was slowing down on my reading. And I had to take classes with the ESL students. So like my fiance she was born here, but Vietnamese was her first language. They all took ESL classes. And I'm like, oh, I took ESL classes too. And they're like, what? You only speak English?
What's ESL?
Like, yeah. English second language.
Oh, wow.
So like, students that come here at a young age and Spanish or whatever Vietnamese, whatever language they're speaking before. So English isn't their native language.
So does everyone from New Jersey have to do this?
I'm not from New Jersey. I think they just get spray tans in New Jersey and they talk like a bunch of Italians. So
well, I should apparently talk like that more because I'm part Italian. I should probably talk like that.
Where I'm from, Johnson, Rhode Island's got like the highest Italian American percentage in the country, population wise. So, but yeah, I had to take those classes, and I remember I learned how to make butter in the barrel. How to make it in the barrel. I had to churn butter. I don't know what that had to do with learning how to speak English.
What?
Yeah.
Tell me you're joking. Please tell me you're joking.
I am not. I'm dead serious.
You made butter in ESL class.
In ESL class, even though English was my only language.
What?
This goes to tell you.
Why were you making butter?
Anyone could work for NASA.
Class? This sounds incredibly suspect, Jeff. Let's get the ESL students. Yeah. We're gonna make you. The word of the day is butter, and we're gonna make some.
I don't remember why, but I remember making the butter. Maybe fourth grade.
I believe you, Jeff. I believe you. Just saying. Sounds a little suspect. That's all.
Yeah. I know the struggle. So.
So, have they ever gotten snow in Alabama?
Yeah, they just did.
You're right, they did. That was that whole thing about and Atlanta was all shut down.
I don't think Atlanta was shut down, but I know that they'll get ice storms every now and then, like every 5 years or so, and that'll shut down the power grid and stuff because all the power lines. But they'll get snow every now and then. I mean, every 20 years, Florida gets hit with a little bit of snow, something like that.
I don't know. I've thought about getting out of this state just because I'm sick of the rain. Like,
Yeah, it rains a lot.
like the first couple of years, like it wasn't too bad because we just moved from Texas.
We
And
both moved here at the
down
same
in
time,
down in
right?
San Antonio, I mean, I put my kid in the car seat and I've got a full body sweat going on. It's like, this is ridiculous. This
Yeah.
is stupid. Let's move somewhere cooler. It's like, oh, Seattle sounds great. Let's move there. But I mean, from October through March, like I saw the sun coming through on your video there.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
gone
that's
now.
weird. I mean, the amount of gray that we get in this area is just ridiculous. And I mean, I haven't really felt it as much as maybe, I don't know. And this year obviously was a lot different with the whole COVID. Like this is like ultimate gray. I don't know, but it's the couple days that we've had sun here. I mean, I literally feel better. Like
Yep.
in my
Vitamin
inner
D.
being, I feel better when the sun comes out. Like it's crazy. Like I've never been a big fan of the rain. I mean, like we've had like the rain causes all kinds of house problems, which I'm not a fan of, but just that always gray sky and then to have the sun break through, it just makes it so much better. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it rained, the sun came out a lot today, but it also rained a lot today.
Yeah, today was weird because we had the wind, we had sun. There was actually a little bit of frost forming on my roof, I think from the wind after the rain, because it had to have been a cold wind, I guess. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
looked out the window because, well, honestly, I was worried that it would I'd have to like figure out how to take the sound of rain out of this podcast.
It would have made
What's that?
the sound effects would have added to the value of your podcast.
Yes, that's true. You know, a true Pacific Northwest podcast can't have it without rain. I suppose there's something to be said for that. Maybe I should have just opened the window and just gone with it, you know. But the weird piece was the wind. We don't usually get that much wind. I mean, we had that one windstorm where did you lose power during that windstorm?
We had a flicker and that was it.
So the weird piece with that one for us is I woke up that morning and I could tell the power had been reset because the oven, you know, the oven and the microwave were both flashing. And I was like, okay, we lost power. Here in Lake Stevens, we don't lose power too often. Mostly attributed to what I've heard before we got here was there was an effort to get rid of all the trees that were near power lines. So if you had a tree on your property that was near a power line and you wanted it down, the city would pay for it. So it was like, yeah, sure. So apparently that's helped contribute. But that day, I literally, the Keurig was going, like I'd hit go on the Keurig and it was like, I don't know, a quarter inch of coffee and the power shuts off. And then we were without power for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, which really isn't, you know, that's not too bad considering.
Not too bad, but you didn't have coffee, so that.
But it was like, it was the tease, you know, it was the tease of here, I'm going to let you have enough power to turn on the Keurig, to warm up the water. You get your pod in there, you hit go, and you got this much coffee and bam, it's gone.
Yeah. So now you wasted a pod and you're only going to get this little bit of coffee.
Well, and I didn't even realize it because, you know, the power goes out and I'm not thinking about coffee when the power goes out. I go and I find, you know, some flashlights, tell the wife, you know, hey, power's out. We need to maybe get some candles going, sort things out. And for the boys, that was the first time they'd ever been without power at all, which in Montana, there was a few times when we had to be without power because we used to live out of town. My dad had a generator and all that in case we needed it. But being without power was, you know, well, and out of town, it meant you couldn't flush your toilets. If it's yellow, let it mellow, you know? So, but here, you know, we still had the water pressure, but that was a weird day when we had all that wind come through and we lost power and I mean, admittedly that there were plenty of people who had loss of power a lot longer than us, but you know,
when I remember losing power when I was a kid and it was exciting. Like
Yeah,
I've lost
I
power.
know.
Like I can remember twice when I lost power. One was during a blizzard, and that was bad because yeah, you lost power, but you didn't have any heat. So I invited my best friend over. We set up a fort in my bedroom, and we just like had I had a lot of
There you
blankets
go.
over us. And that's all we did. We had a sleepover, and none of us had power, and we went outside after and during the day and built snowmans. We didn't care. And then we had a hurricane hit us. It was Hurricane Bob. That was the name of it. Hurricane Bob hit us, and we didn't have
Was that
power for
really the
like
name?
2 weeks. Yeah,
Hurricane
Hurricane Bob.
Bob?
Yep,
Oh my.
it was early in hurricane season, and we didn't have power for like 2 weeks, which was okay. I remember burning candles all the time, reading books, and I remember walking around the neighborhood because trees had came down. So like we'll go for a walk, we're like, wow, this whole road's blocked. It was like for a kid, you don't care about damage
Yeah.
because it's cool. Like nothing, if nothing happened to your house, or if it did, if nothing happened to your Nintendo, whatever you had as a kid, you didn't care. You thought it was cool. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah. Yeah.
storm, cool. You don't know death. You don't know money. So everything damage is cool.
You don't know a leaky roof. I mean,
Yeah, you don't care. You're like, oh, we should make a game out of that.
so like, I may have told you the story before, but just for the sake of it being a good story, I'll say it again. The only time that I really remember being without power for a long time was we were living in Helena, Montana, and it was in the middle of winter. I think it was February timeframe, and it was like -40 outside, which for Montana, you usually get like 1 or 2 bouts of that each year. But it was like -40, and a few cars of a train got uncoupled on the top of a nearby pass, and they rolled down the mountain, and they collided, and the stuff inside of them was explosive. And we basically had like a small, well, I wouldn't say a small nuclear blast, but like some kind of blast went off, to the fact that we were living 2 miles, 3 miles away, at least, I would say, from the blast. And we had neighbors with cracked windows from the blast. And that knocked out power for like the whole city. I mean, there were train parts falling through people's roofs. Nobody died, thankfully. But you couple that, and it was a windy day too. So with the wind chill, it was -70. And all I remember is my nightlight went out, and I got to go over to a friend's house, and oatmeal. I got oatmeal for breakfast. This is all that I remember. And this is exactly to your point. We have literally one of the largest explosions that's ever happened in this city. It's blowing out power grids and people's windows like 3 miles out. And all that I remember is my nightlight went out, I got oatmeal, and we got to go to a friend's house. And that's all that I remember.
Yeah.
Your perspective as a kid is like so incredibly different. I mean, if I had been an adult in that situation, I would have been losing my mind.
Yeah. 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 Like, I gotta protect my family. I gotta protect our stuff. What do I do if this lasts forever? Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, and like those temperatures, like frozen pipes, so the reason we went to a friend's house is because my mom couldn't get the wood stove going, because we had a wood stove in our house. And like, it was so cold. My dad, he used to work for the U.S. Geological Survey, and he would go out on trips every once in a while. And this just happened to land on one of those like weeks when my dad was out of town, and this all happened, and my mom couldn't get the wood stove going. The neighbor couldn't get the wood stove going. And so we had no heat in our house, -40, 70 with wind chill. I just want to say that again because it sounds so cool. But I mean, like, all that I remember as a kid is, yeah, we got to go to our friend's house and play toys, because they somehow had power. Apparently they got power sooner than us. But so we drove across town in our Volkswagen Vanagon, because that's the kind of family we were in the day. Yeah, that van, and that van eventually broke down, lo and behold, and we got another one. So that's how much my parents love Vanagons.
Did you ever have the old station wagons where the back seat, the all the way back seat faced out the back window.
I wish I had. I wish. So we went straight. We went from. We had a Subaru because my parents were hippies. Because they had the Subaru before. The Subaru was cool, and we went straight to the Vanagon. We went to another Vanagon, and then that broke down. When we went to some concert in Gorge, Washington. Down at, I don't know if you've ever been to that amphitheater. It's great. But on the way home, it completely broke down, and we bought a new Dodge Caravan. So I never had the back seat looking back experience. Did you?
No, I never had it, but my good buddy growing up, his parents had it, and we would always go to Cape Cod. Do you know what Cape Cod is?
I know the name because I bought some chips that were Cape Cod potato chips.
Right, I went to that factory as a kid.
Which, okay, quick side note, I have bought so many bags of what I would consider high-end potato chips, and they're all like a third full. I bought a bag of Cape Cod potato chips at Costco, and that bag was 2/3 full. Blew my mind. It was amazing. We're still eating through it.
You can go to the factory, and they give you like the tin can full of potato chips.
They're good chips.
Cape Cod is the horn of Massachusetts. So you know how Massachusetts is pretty much a rectangle.
Yeah.
And then you have that little arm.
Mm-hmm.
So that whole arm is Cape Cod.
Nice.
And we would go there all the time, and my family would go with his family, and he would we'd always get that station wagon. We'd always like sit in that back seat facing aft and like never wear seat belts. And I was telling him the other day, I'm like, man, when I have kids, I want to get that. Do you think they still make those station wagons? And it had like the wood grain strip on the outside.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I want. He's like, dude, they can't make that anymore because of safety reasons. You can't have that seat in the back. And
I'm not surprised. I mean, yeah, safety. Holy cow! But I mean, like, so something that has always bugged me, and I'm sure you'll run into this once you. It sounds like you're planning on having a kid, so good on you. Good luck with that. We've got 3, and it's been an adventure. I love those kids to death, but
I like it.
But the whole car seat thing, it's like you need to have them rear facing for the first. I don't know. It started off with like probably the first like 6 months, and now it's up to the first 10 years or something. I don't know. Wifey keeps track of that. She's much better. She's much better at keeping track of that than I am. But for me, anytime I look at that, all I see is statistics. Like, so statistically, you're more likely to come into a position where the force, you're running into something as opposed to someone hitting you from the back end. And if someone hits you from the back end, then all of those, like the direction you're facing gets completely switched, and you'd be much better off facing forward, even if you're a little kid. And I don't know, I get statistics. They're good. They can be very beneficial, but like, I don't know, like every one of the, like when you are in your, like if you're in your accident, the accident that happens to you, which thankfully has never happened to me, I'm very thankful for that. But when you are in your accident, the one that happens to you, it's like all those statistics are out the window, and you just got to hope that, like, I mean, I guess I'm kind of going back on myself here, but you got to hope that all those statistics previously apply to you, because if they don't, and you get like, some side collision, then the direction you're facing doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't know. I went way off on a tangent there.
No, it's funny on that tangent. So work required me to take a defensive driving class. Not because I didn't do anything. It's just a requirement to drive.
What, are you going to be driving a company vehicle or something?
No, I don't know. Maybe it's because you have to drive on base and stuff like that. I don't know. But there was a requirement to take it. Well, so the Marshall Space Flight Center is part of the Redstone Arsenal base, so that it's like Army and NASA combined. I don't know why.
Weird. I've never heard of joint base between like, because NASA's civilian, right?
Yeah, but it's not the Army. It's I think it's just like a depot maintenance type thing. So I think it's mostly civilians there.
Okay. Anyways,
I'm not sure. I don't know. Google it.
Either way, you had to take a course.
Yeah, so I took that, And I always thought I was a good driver. Yeah, sometimes I can be aggressive and whatever, but I was always seatbelt. And like there's stuff on there, I'm like, they didn't teach me that in driver's ed, and why aren't they teaching me this? And like, I always thought you had to set your mirrors a certain way, and I always set them the way I learned in driver's ed. And
Mm-hmm.
like, your left mirror is so you just want to see the back quadrant of the rear of your car, right? That's usually where you go. They're like, nope, they want you to put your head on the window and then look at the mirror and then extend it all the way till you can't see the end of your car anymore. I'm like, what? And then do the same thing to the right one, but only, lean in a little bit to like almost under your rear view, and then adjust that mirror for the same thing, and then adjust your rear view so that you can see everything for like, I don't know.
I feel like the amount of bobbing and weaving you'd have to do, like just in your seat.
But you should bob and weave when you're looking in your mirrors, is what they're saying. And if you have your mirror set like that, it shrinkens your blind spot by far much. So that was like the first thing I did when I took that class. I'm like, all right, I'm changing my mirrors. And yeah, it was very interesting.
So for your left rear view mirror, you move to the left and to increase your, is that right? Or is it?
No, you put your hand on the window like this, and then you look at your mirror, and then you adjust your mirror so that way the back of your car disappears. As soon as it's gone, then your mirror is set. So that way, when you're driving and you see that mirror, you look in your mirror and you see that car in that lane, you're only gonna miss it for like a second or two, and then it's in your peripheral vision. So because there's a bigger blind spot when you have it the old way.
But you still have a blind spot.
But it's like instant short.
Much smaller.
Yeah.
Do you have do you have a car that has the blind spot monitoring on it?
No, I don't have that.
We drove one of those recently I forget when we took a car, because we haven't, obviously we haven't gone anywhere in at least a year, but we had one of those vehicles that had the blind spot monitoring, and it was nice. It was really nice.
It is nice. I've driven those plenty of times, but then you get lackadaisy with it. When I drove a rental car for like a week, and then I drove back to my truck, and now I'm putting on my blinker, and I'm like, oh, no sound. Like now I'm forgetting to check because I'm so those will come standard one day. It'll be standard.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, they are really helpful, but and that gets into the whole, like, I don't know, how safe do you want things to be? I mean, do you want people to be paying attention, and that's what you rely on, or do you want to rely on the system? And I mean, anytime it comes down to statistics and insurance, which is, the way that most things are run, they're gonna want that there, because by and large that will help the majority of people in the short term. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing to kind of talk that, because I mean, do you make your society safer overall, and then everyone gets dumber? I think that's the wrong word, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, how long until we just become those blobs, which I don't know if you've seen this movie, but
I've seen it.
I like how you said that, and I don't even know.
iRobot, right?
Which one?
iRobot?
iRobot's good. That's a really good one. I was thinking of the Disney one. WALL-E.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. That's what I meant. I meant to say WALL-E. And I've had this conversation so many times. We're all just sitting in the chair, sucking on a straw, watching stuff.
Yeah, where we become the humans in WALL-E who don't even know how to get out of our chair,
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, you could make the case that we're already moving that direction. I mean, technology has changed us so much and I mean, and Elon wants to, put Neuralink into our heads, and then we can just become, I'm going to go kind of deep here, the Borg from Star Trek. Do you know the Borg from Star Trek?
No.
So basically they're a race of, they're one of the enemies in Star Trek, but basically they're a cybernetic and organic life form that basically has a collective hive mind. And whenever I hear Neuralink, that's what I think of, is the Borg, where you've got like everybody's connected and all our thoughts kind of become one almost instantaneously. And then you've got this, you know, in the Borg world, anyways, in Star Trek world, it's a queen who's the one who actually makes the decisions. But like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. And I don't know exactly where I land on that, because I mean, the whole idea of Neuralink, when you implement it like for one person to be able to, you know, you have better memories, and the way that he's going about it, where you have people with disabilities who, you know, can't see or they can't walk, and they put this chip in your brain essentially, and you're able to talk to people. You're able to see, you're able to walk. I mean, those are, I mean, I occasionally watch those videos on Facebook that show up in my feed where that kid who's never been able to see or never been able to hear, the first thing he hears is his mom saying, "I love you." And it's like, oh man. Yeah, I was, there's someone's cutting onions around here. I mean, it's
an allergy attack.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's like the idea that you could make this Neuralink to be able to fix that for so many people is great. But then you apply that on a large scale, which is the way that everything goes around here. You talk about, you know, does it scale? And then it turns into this, you know, you go from a mom saying, "I love you" to her kid for the first time to, we are now the Borg. And I know you don't know the Borg, but bad guys, you know, bad robot. It's weird. It's a weird thing to propose from Elon, and Elon could pull it off, is the thing.
Yeah, but I think he does primarily want, I'm not going to speak for him, but that's where he wants to go. That if you can make people walk again, it's not that their legs don't work. It's just their brain isn't firing to allow his legs to work.
Yeah.
Anymore. And you got to make sure you use ethics. You know, don't let the Russians get into it, because they don't care about it.
Right, because the Russians are intrinsically evil, obviously.
No, I didn't say that. They just don't teach ethics. That's why they'll build the submarines for the Colombians to smuggle cocaine. Anyway, that's a good documentary.
Which documentary is that?
I'll text you the name of it, but I watched it and it reminded me of all my Russian friends that I had and how much I love them because they have great accents. Because their English is broken, but it's just perfect.
Yeah.
Germans are like that too. I have German friends that speak the broken English just like that. And man, there was this Russian guy. He was doing hits for like the Italian mafia in New Jersey or New York. And then when one of the...
This is a documentary?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. One of the guys got his name is Tarzan. The Russian guy. Tarzan. He went down to Florida and went down to Miami, opened up a strip club called Porky's, and then, and then eventually he was the Soviet Union disbarred, so he was able to get like tanks, helicopters, and anyway, they tried to get submarines from Russia to give to the Pablo Escobar and all them so that they can smuggle drugs. And the Russians are like, yeah, take them. Just give us money. We just want money. You can like buy anything from them at that time. So I'll look up what it was and I'll send it to you. But it was really good. I wouldn't watch it with the kids. It's really good. It was really. I enjoyed it. It was a random day when I was able to. But yeah, so. Back to the Neuralink. If you keep it like that, then that's good, because here's the problem with the cancel culture now and all this hoopla. You can have a thought in your brain of like, oh, that girl's pretty, but you're not going to do anything about it. You're just a natural human being. Like, that person is very attractive, but you're not going to do anything because you have a wife and you have morals. But it's okay to think someone else is attractive. It's whether you act on it, because there's no way any human can be like, right, I'm married to you, and now no one can be attractive. That just is impossible for me, your wife. It doesn't matter. So if you think that, and then like they know you thought that, can they bring up sexual harassment charges on you? Because I mean,
so for the, I mean, like,
work.
the way that I've always thought about that, I mean, is it's, you know, the first look, okay, yes, that person is attractive. It's the second look, the third look, the fourth look, the fifth, the not being willing to kick it from your mind. Be like, okay, yeah, that's a pretty woman. Okay, great. All right, kids, we're going to go get ice cream, whatever it is. I mean,
Right.
it's, but in exactly like you're saying, you apply this Neuralink to that cancel culture, you're done. Game over.
Done. Done. Even if that's the only thought you had of that person, there could be situations, you know, this happens in the military and workplaces now where I want to get ahead of you and I'm not as smart and I'm not as brilliant. You're doing all the right things, but I still have this recorded that one day you thought I was attractive. So now I'm bringing that to HR and now I got you canned or whatever. Now I made it. And that's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like you're at a board meeting or you're presenting something and you have an executive there and you know that executive is just, you know, there's executives that just, we don't know how they got there.
I don't know. I think
there, you're doing your presentation and you're like, this guy is a fucking idiot. And now he knows you said that and you may have the best presentation. You may have the best business case to get this project approved, but he's going to be like, you think I'm an idiot? Denied.
I feel like if Neuralink happened and it happened on some kind of large scale, it would have to happen on a large scale, or there would have to be some kind of like forgiveness period when like someone's first getting introduced to Neuralink. Because if you do Neuralink, and because I mean that would change the way you think about everything, because then because then you'd have your thoughts, and I mean it's perfectly normal that everybody has their own thoughts, but then you'd also have all these other voices in your head that you don't know how to cope with yet. And I mean, I don't know if the human mind is even able to do that like that. And that's something that Elon hasn't, you know, and that's why Elon is I think he's very measured in his approach, because, you know, right now he is just helping people. Now the potential now, and I mean, when, you know, because the people who ask him about that stuff, you know, like Joe, that they'll say, hey, well, what does this mean for humanity as a whole when we all have it? It's like, well, there's got to be a point where some people have it and some people don't. How do you decide that? That's going to be interesting. But like when the first time you get in, I mean, who knows if your mind can even handle it? I mean, because you're so used to being in your own head, and now all of a sudden you've got millions. Well, I mean, depending on when you join, depending on, you know, what subscription status you've got, if you got premium, you know, but like the ability to cope with that and realize, because I mean, everybody has a thought in their head where they're like, I want to do this thing and it's incredibly dark, whatever it is. You know, you don't share that, but you have it just for an instant and it's gone. Well, you take that instant and you apply it over millions of people. I mean, who knows how Neuralink will work? And that's really the big unknown here is you don't know, will you be continuously connected, or would it be just like, I can tap into it when I want? And that maybe that would be a better way to do it.
Right. But here, there's benefits to this. Like when you want to pick a politician to vote for.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I want to give you this type of whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying in his mind, like, these idiots, I can't wait to fall. I'm not promising. And then you know. Like, you know that person. But then here's another disadvantage. Like, what if you're playing a game of chess? What if me and you are great chess players, and now I know your next 10 moves because you're pondering, well, if you move here, if you move there.
Yeah.
And then let's say like the Tom Brady's of this world, who is a phenomenal athlete, but he always wants to get the next edge. He's so smart. He had a hacker hack into the defense's neural chips, and now he knows exactly what all the defenses are thinking.
Yeah.
So he's now won his 20th Super Bowl because he's hacked into the defense's neural links.
Well, I think Tom Brady will be gone by the time Neuralink comes around, which thank God for that, because my goodness, I can't, like, damn, I respect the guy, but I can't stand him.
Like Texas Hold'em.
New York Giants. Your New York Giants. I am so thankful for the New York Giants because my goodness, you saved some of those rings on his hand. And those were great games. Those were great games. So thank you, Jeff, for the New York Giants.
I did nothing, but I take the credit.
Perfect.
But seriously, that ends all those games. Like, we can't have say if we had a Texas Hold'em every Friday night, us and 8 other friends, like, you couldn't have, because then you know when
without some kind of firewall, without some kind of way to block it. Yeah, that's a really good point. That, like, and I mean,
but what if I can hack your firewall?
You're scaring me, Jeff.
Because
like Neuralink already scared me.
Are we using Wi-Fi to transmit these thoughts? Are we using something his satellites that he's sending up?
It's 5G, man.
The bats, like, so if I can hack into that, I can take everyone's money.
It's true. Or take their minds.
What are you gonna do with that, though?
Well, okay, you turn them into some kind of hive mind. You get people to go to work for you. Sent, like, yes, all about it. All banking routing numbers must be sent to this bank account. I don't know.
But money probably wouldn't even be worth anything then, unless you have Bitcoin. So.
Or was it Dogecoin or whatever that Elon's talking about?
Yeah.
Did you see that he wants to create a new city in Texas?
Yeah, I saw that.
Starbase?
Tesla City or something.
Oh my gosh.
Toyota is doing that in Japan.
Really?
Toyota has like a whole city where I wish I read the article. I just saw the headline and then I think something happened and I couldn't read it. But I love Toyota. I have a Tacoma. Tweety's going to get RAV4, so we're going to be a Toyota family.
Yeah.
We want to get a Tesla eventually, but that's not for a while because those are expensive.
Yeah.
But they have a whole city in Japan. I'll have to look this up and send it to you later, but they did that in Japan somewhere. Like, they all
That's
run.
Crazy.
I have to look it up.
Toyota City. I don't know if Elon makes Starbase a real city. I mean, like, that would become. I want to say it would become a tourist attraction, but I feel like it would probably just become like an engineer's tourist attraction because he would have so much cool crap in that town. You know, engineers from far and wide would want to come just check it out.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if my fiance would want to go visit.
I'll go with you.
Unless there was like some food attraction, like some
food attraction. Well, I'm sure, maybe like 3D printed food. Maybe he's going to have a 3D printed cheeseburger that tastes better than anything.
Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yeah, why?
Did you watch Upload?
Upload, a documentary?
No, it's a TV series. So whatever.
No, why?
Watch it. It's good. You can watch it with the wife, maybe the kids. I don't think I saw any nudity. But you die. It's called Upload. When you die, if you die within a certain time, they can save your brain and you're uploaded into this new simulation or whatever, but you're alive. You feel things, you eat, you have everything.
So you don't like take over another body. You're just like,
no, it's your body. And there's like a customer service person on the other line who actually designs your body for you to make sure you have your features and stuff. And like, if you're having a problem in your simulation or they can help you with that.
That's funny.
But you just have to it's like a 401k for retirement, but it's like a 401k for death. Like if you die, but you save this amount of money and you take this money with you into this fake afterlife, but you can still interact with people who are alive. So like if I was an Upload right now, we could still be doing this podcast and I still have my thoughts and my memories because they saved all that.
This is a show?
It's a show. It's really good. I liked it. It was good.
This sounds exactly like the kind of thing I would like to watch. So I will totally watch it.
And it's like if people walk into the turret, they die. They literally die. It's over. And some people can't handle being in like a fake world and not like, yeah.
So that's a really interesting take that because I mean, there's plenty of, like Matrix theories where, we're living in a simulation now, but maybe like that's a really interesting, like when you die you get to like go to the simulation,
right?
That's
you can interact with your loved ones that are alive, or you can be uploaded to where your grandparents had passed or your wife, say she passed before you, like she's there waiting for you, and then eventually you die and go there. Like
that's a really like that's a weird combination of like of
like
simulation and heaven like put
yeah,
together.
they have like spoiler alert, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. They
Jeff,
can have like sex. They can't like literally have sex, but like the alive person puts on like a sex suit that has all these feeling thingies, and then the dead person who's in this world has the actual body of the person who is having real sex. So it's crazy.
that's so weird.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
really
weird.
weird.
Have you seen Ready Player One?
This one?
Ready Player One, it's a movie.
Is that with Michael C. Hall? No, that's not Michael C. Hall on that one.
I don't know my actors well enough, but it's the one where the guy he's living in a trailer park, a futuristic trailer park where they deliver pizza with drones, and he puts on the goggles and he's got this suit where anything that happens in the video game world he can feel.
They have an avatar that they're always. Yeah, I've seen that. Yep.
Which apparently they released Ready Player 2. I thought the first one, the first movie was pretty good. Like the whole idea of just everything being in a simulation that you willingly go into and then being able to do whatever you want in that simulation. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting idea. I don't know where Ready Player 2 would go from that. The first movie was entertaining, if nothing else.
They should combine it with Jurassic Park and go back to Jurassic Park.
They had Jurassic Park in the movie, right? They had the T-Rex, like in like there were like the 3 puzzles, and you had to get through the first one, and one of the like pieces of the puzzle is you had to get past the ultimate piece, the ultimate part of the first puzzle, which you had to get past King Kong, I think it was, but part of it also was getting past the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
You like dinosaurs, right?
I greatly appreciated that. I do. Yeah.
So I have a book.
T-Rex skeleton right here.
It's an adult dinosaur book, The Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs. And I actually talked to the author. His name is Steve Brusanti. He's from like Scotland or something. But I flew through this book, and they talk about how they rose and how they died. And then they do how we know dinosaurs and how much force their bites have and everything, and why we know T-Rex has short arms and stuff. They did all those finite calculations, like what we would do to find like a stress analysis on an airplane part and stuff like that. They did that on there, and I wanted to do a lunch and learn, so I contacted them for those videos on those simulations they did, because we use those simulations. But I just really wanted to talk about dinosaurs in my lunch and learn, but I needed to apply it to our engineering, so I was like, but I just wanted to talk about dinosaurs. So read this book, it's good. I'm gonna reread it again. And I found the guy on Twitter, and I Googled, he's a professor, so I eventually got his email address, and I emailed him, and then he pinged me over to where he got that research information from. And I wish I was a geologist or archaeologist or something. That seems like
that is really cool. Like, I'm legitimately like, send me that information, because that is exactly the kind of thing that I would enjoy. So
yeah, but buy this book, Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs.
Rise and Fall. Okay, that is awesome. I don't know. I've always had a fascination with dinosaurs, but it's usually always revolved around Jurassic Park, mostly because I find that to be an amazing movie, whose special effects hold up really well. Oh man, I got it. What is it? 25? Was it 96 or 92 that movie came out? I forget which. Either way, it's so long ago. The fact that those special effects still hold up now, is amazing.
That was like revolutionary then. That was the thing.
Well, and the thing, like, I remember, so
that was our Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I remember, so when I was a kid, I had the making of documentary, and there was a big debate, because they were actually going to use stop motion, like claymation, essentially, for the T-Rex attack right when the T-Rex breaks out. They were going to use like stop motion photography for that. and they had it all set up, and then the CGI computer guys came in and were like, yeah, we can do that. And they decided to make the switch. And that was like one of the big things that they switched from. But the fact that they made it look so real, because I mean, you watch, like, I remember watching King Kong, Peter Jackson's version with Jack Black, which I found a very suspect choice in why you would pick Jack Black to play this incredibly serious character. But like the graphics there, the special effects in that movie, I always found incredibly suspect when you put them next to Jurassic Park, which I find so weird because, I mean, it seems like Jurassic Park nailed it. You should take what you learn and apply that to future movies, because they really did. They absolutely nailed it. And, you know, take the lessons learned, move on. But I felt like that movie was, like, it was good. I always enjoy a good monster movie, but I feel like they almost took a step back with that one.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Speaking of Black, did you see the new Jumanjis?
I did. Those movies are so ridiculous. I love them.
Those are good, because I remember Robin Williams' Jumanji.
Yeah.
And then it was one, you know, during the pandemic, you run out of stuff to watch, and then you stop buying movies. And we watched, I'm like, oh, let's watch the original Jumanji. And she was like, this is boring. Let's just watch the new one. So we watched the new one. And then we watched the sequel to the new one. And I'm like, yeah, The Rock, Kevin Hart, and like Jet Black. And yeah.
The Smolder.
Yeah. They're really good. And then they had Danny DeVito in the second one. And I'm like, oh my God.
Those guys, they did such a great job with that. It was great. I really enjoyed those movies. Because I mean, they had so many references to video games kind of buried under the skin on that one, that it was just really good. It was really good. It's all video game stuff though.
Yeah, it was good.
Which no one likes to admit that they play video games, even though
I
think we all play video games.
Dude, I haven't played video games in so long, and I love playing video games. I grew up playing video games, and moving out here, I stopped playing video games.
This is the wrong. Like this area is like prime time for video games.
Yeah, but I'm still out doing stuff. Well, now I got the move, but I was always, I don't know, out doing stuff. I still have Grand Theft Auto, and that's like my top game that I have left. I have South Park, the game, which is great to play when you have no kids around, because it's very.
What was it? The Stick of Destiny or something?
The Stick of Truth.
Stick of Truth. That's the one.
And then the sequel was Fractured But Whole. But if you say it really fast, it sounds like you say fractured butthole. But it's spelled.
Those guys, that South Park humor is so bad, but it like that. Those guys are masters at what they do.
They got a new one coming out on Wednesday, like another pandemic special.
Another one?
Yeah, but it's about like the shots and the QAnon people, and Butters is like the leader of QAnon. I'm like, oh my God, no. And then they had this whole thing about essential workers, and I don't know if you remember the underwear gnomes. They're like the essential workers, and then all the old people are like flicking off everyone because they got the vaccines before everyone else.
Oh my gosh. I did watch I have seen very few episodes of South Park. The one that I know best is the World of Warcraft episode, because
I won an award.
Yeah, I mean that thing was amazing. But I mean, I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, and so I like watching that episode. You could tell that, I mean, they really knew what they were doing when they made that episode. Like, so
did you know in that episode that they actually set up their own server to record that? Like their
own server?
They worked with Blizzard, and they set up their own server. They had their own land to do it in.
Gosh.
And I mean, someone hacked in. Someone figured it out, and they rewrote the script, and they had to try and, like, this guy was just coming in and killing them. because they were all like level 3 or 4 characters, and this guy hacked in as a level 60 whatever, and he was just killing everyone. So they rewrote it.
I mean, that's the one piece of that episode that makes absolutely no sense is like in World of Warcraft, you're only able to kill like the opposing faction.
Yeah.
And so for this guy to just walk around killing everyone, and then like the outfits that all the, you know, Stan and the characters were wearing, you could tell that they definitely had worked, like either they had their own high level characters or they'd worked with Blizzard.
They worked with Blizzard.
Yeah. But like a matching outfit where everything is blue and gold at the same time, and then the dwarf has everything that's like red and silver, you know, that never happens in the game, because in the game you always just look like someone who's just come from a garage sale of armor.
Because you want your highest level shit. And
yeah, exactly. You got to think, you got to have something with the mana regen, you know, whatever.
Well, I played World of Warcraft for like maybe a couple months.
Yeah.
And,
the funny thing, like I never really played it much until I met my wife. Like Joanna got me into World of Warcraft, which usually guys are the ones who's playing video games and they get their girlfriends involved. Well, this was the other way around. But yeah, I played way too much of that game. So
my half brother, that's how he met his current wife.
I know a lot of people like when we were at FE Warren, literally we had a house that shared a wall, and our neighbors, like they had met on WoW, and here we were, you know, in charge of nuclear weapons, and you know our neighbors had met online in WoW, and it's like this is way more common than I think a lot of people want to admit. And I mean, yeah, it's interesting.
Good for them. I don't make fun. I think that's how people meet people. It's okay.
Yeah,
the same hobby.
So what's going to happen when Neuralink comes in and everybody can read everybody's mind and be like, I pick you?
I don't know. I'll be married by then.
This will be a problem for our children. This is something that I've thought about a few times, is I wonder if our kids will have to take a driving test. I mean, you remember that, right? You remember taking a driving test?
Yeah, we had parallel park and everything. They'll be like, "Oh, I need a parallel park," and I'll just hit a button and put it. Okay. Right? They'll just do that.
Exactly.
Well, I parallel parked. Like, it's not my fault you have this old car from 2029. Like, I have a 2040 Tesla, whatever, you know?
Yeah, that flies. Did you see that Elon wants to do that too? He wants to have a car that flies. Like, he calls it hovering, but it's basically flying.
Is he going to do that in his Star City?
I don't know. That guy, I don't know how he does what he does, but he's basically a modern day, or I wouldn't say modern day, a real world would be a better, real world Iron Man, you know, Tony Stark.
His brain just doesn't stop. So everyone, I don't think it'd be, I would never say I'm jealous of him.
Yeah, I mean, he basically never turns it off. He never has an off button. He just keeps going. I mean, I think a lot of us, I mean, there's a lesson you could learn there that, you know, always be applying yourself. But I mean, when you put everything together that he has accomplished, it's and even if I spent every waking minute working on something, I don't know, maybe I need to raise my expectations of myself, but the stuff that he's accomplished, I mean, I would be happy if I'd come up with the Boring Company and we'd sold hats and flamethrowers, because that right there is just awesome. Not a flamethrower, you know, that right there. If I'd come up with that would be incredible. But the fact that he's doing that while he's getting ready to send people to Mars and he's got his car flying around the solar system.
Yeah.
If there's anyone who's going to create a Jurassic Park, it's him.
Yeah.
He could get the people to do it. He could get the people to do it.
Or maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson and him can team up.
But then, like, that's like sending dinosaurs to space, which I'm all for.
Well, maybe that's what we should do with Mars. Why don't we just put Jurassic Park on Mars, and then people pay a lot of money to go to Mars to see Jurassic Park, and then you just bring them back. And then if the dinosaurs ever go crazy, it'll never affect us because they're not going to know how to get on a spaceship and fly back. Their arms are too short.
Yeah, but you're assuming the only thing we're putting on Mars is Brontosaurus, which isn't a real dinosaur. We'll say Brachiosaurus, and T-Rex. If we put Velociraptors on Mars, we're done. Game over.
They won't know. There's not enough gravity, so maybe they'll jump so high and then they'll learn that maybe I shouldn't jump on people anymore.
Just jump to the top of Olympus Mons. Isn't that the name of the highest peak on Mars? Mons, isn't that it?
Yeah,
I don't know. You're from NASA. You're supposed to know these things, Jeff.
I don't even know if Mars is real.
It's just a dot in the sky, right?
I just joined NASA to prove to everyone that Earth is flat. And once I figure that out, I'll release it. I don't believe Earth is flat.
Thank goodness. Yes, that's good to know. If there were people, there's a fun question. Is there people at NASA who believe the Earth is flat? Because my goodness,
I would hope not, because you need no. Because if you wouldn't be able to get to space if you use the theories from flat Earth to get to space.
Because what they believe in a disk, right? They believe it's a big disk with ice at the edge.
Yeah.
Oh my.
And then like a lamp is the sun or something.
A lamp going around us. I don't know. Somehow there's got to be some rotation going on there. Did you ever see that? I would say, did you ever see that movie? It's called, I think it's Dark City, where essentially that's the case, where it's just like a city floating around on an asteroid, but you don't realize it till the very end. Nope. I just totally gave away that movie, so I don't know.
There was a documentary on Netflix that I watched in the beginning of the pandemic, and it's about flat earthers, and I'm like, I got nothing to watch, why not? And the leader of it is in Whidbey Island. And it shows him taking the ferry from Mukilteo over to Whidbey Island, and I'm texting my buddy on Whidbey Island. I'm like, dude, this guy's your neighbor.
Oh my god.
And he's like, flat Earth. It's great. I don't know.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on in Washington. Because you got the whole Sasquatch is here apparently.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be at the race.
Oh, your race. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
It's the big.
There was actually a 5K that Joanna and I ran. 5K at Lord Hill, and there was like a Sasquatch 5K, and it was put on by REI, which I have to admit, for REI, I was pretty glad that they were able to kind of step out like that. But they actually had a dude in a Sasquatch suit hiding on the race course who would jump out and scare you. It was pretty great.
Awesome.
I chased him down.
I think the Bigfoot, from what I saw in the videos, he just starts with you and runs out in the beginning, and then that's it.
So he did that, but we start that particular one. We started in the south parking lot. Remember those couple times when we ran it, and we would go and then we'd go up that incredibly steep mountain. That's the way that the course went, and then you came back down on that road that we've run a couple times.
Right.
So it was a pretty miserable race because it was a lot of hills.
There's nothing not miserable about Lord Hill. Oh.
Hey, there's some good open trails there. Okay, I still think it's a good place to go, despite what you might think.
It is a good place to go and train and stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm happy. I'm not happy doing it.
Hey, we named a hill after you there. Okay, so.
And now I hate that hill even more. But I do that other hill, which we call Mount Misery now.
That one is. Yeah. That is
and barely make it up Jeff's Hill after that.
Well, because especially if you got to get back to where we normally park in the north lot, you go up Mount Misery, then you got to go through Jeff's Hill to get back. I mean, I suppose you could take some other ways around, and that's one of the things I love about Lord Hills. There's so many different paths out there, but you still got to get up some other hill. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I like running my 20 miles without Dalton and Kevin, because it's like I don't feel like doing the hill, and I don't have to, but I'm always following them, and I always have to do their route.
What I love about that place, though, is we've run so many of those trails that, like, admittedly, Kevin, like, I took some new trails, and then Kevin took it to a whole new level of, like, just like, I'm going to run through those thorns.
Yeah.
And, like, he found a lot of great trails. He did.
Yeah. Yep. We might have ran every single trail there.
I remember it took us 2 years to find that river trail. But
that's a cool trail. It sooner than later. Late. We found it sooner than later, but we just didn't. We found it on accident the first time we went to it, and then, or maybe I went there on my own and I found it on accident. But
you must have found it on your own. I didn't get there for a long time. Okay.
I think my first time at Lord Hill, I made it to that river, but I was alone and I was hiking.
Hiking's a little different. That would be a nice place to just go hang out. If you could strap a lawn chair to your back and just go hang out down there, that'd be nice.
Yeah. You got a wild cougar behind you?
Oh, that would be, well, technically her name is Jin, but I call her Stinks because when she was a kitten, she didn't clean herself very well, and I had to do it for her. So, yeah, she's usually pretty chill. I was worried she was going to come over here and meow, honestly, but she's a good cat. She's a good cat.
I shut the door, and Tweevy's at her mom's house with the dog, so I'm good.
That's thoughtful. All right, man. Well, we're at a little over 2 hours. Really appreciate it. I don't know exactly where I'm going with this podcast. I think it'll be fun, but this is a great way to kick it off. So thanks for your time.
I'm honored. And, when I moved to Alabama, we could still do this.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And that was something I was thinking about, like this, because I mean, some of this came out of COVID, me being bored, and some of this came from me not wanting to be able to, or me not being able to, I should say, do as much as I was actively. So I wasn't able to work out, 2 or 3 times a week. So I had a lot of spare time on my hands. But with you, going to almost literally the other side of the country and Kevin too, I figured this would be a good way to, every once in a while we can have you on and be a good way to catch up. So.
Yeah. Right. This is only my second podcast that I've been on.
Second? What was your first podcast?
My fantasy football league from back home. A couple guys used to do one.
Yeah.
So it didn't make sense to make it go public because no one would be like, what are they talking about? When I flew home one year, they were like, oh, we need you to be a guest because you are the godfather of the league. So.
Well, and you don't even do that anymore, right?
I quit. I won my last year and I retired a champion. I'm actually flying home in a couple weeks. I'm bringing them the trophy back because I'm going to check a bag. So.
Nice. You did it, Peyton Manning style?
John Elway.
John Elway? You're going with John Elway. Oh, man. I'm not a fan of John.
No, I went out with Michael.
I got it.
Michael Strahan.
Okay. All right. So I don't have really any social media presence at all. Do you still do social media at all?
All I have is Twitter, which I don't really tweet. I usually use it for news and stuff. And then I have Instagram, and I rarely do pictures. But I have them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't have anyone. So I've got, this thing I've got set up for Facebook and Twitter, and that's it. So if you want to include that, now's the time. If not, I realize that the fact is I would probably gain more from including my Twitter information than you on this. So.
Well, my Twitter is at Jeffy G-Man. So it's JEFFYGMAN. That's my Twitter. And then my Instagram is And I can share whatever. If you send me something and need me to share it, I will promote it. And then that is also my Instagram is at Jeffrey G Man. So
Okay, cool.
and you you follow me on Instagram. So.
I'll follow you on Twitter. How about that? I literally have an account that is not following anyone and has no followers, and I tweeted without any hashtags.
You're like a rebel. Like,
completely doing it wrong. I'll start using the hashtags, and I'll call you out on there. But yeah, I'm the so what I have set up for this is Adhocracy Cast, because Adhocracy Podcast was one letter too long. It was incredibly frustrating. I spent like right before this podcast, I spent probably 2 hours trying to figure out a podcast, like a Twitter handle to use, because I couldn't figure one out that actually made the most sense, because Adhocracy itself was already taken, and Ad Hoc Podcast was taken. I don't know, but
we're on Spotify, right? So
yeah, I already got the trailer's on Spotify.
Yeah,
so I'm real now. I've actually had it on repeat this whole time just so I can get my views up. So anyways, this has been great. Thanks for being willing to do this. It really has been a fun conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you on the SLS, because that's a pretty badass thing. So
yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
All right, talk to you later, man.
Hey man, I'll talk to you later.
Adhocracy.